The envelope arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered by a lawyer who refused to make eye contact. Inside was a letter from a man who'd been dead for 6 months. Chike stood in his Banana Island penthouse. The Lego skyline stretched behind him like a kingdom he'd conquered and forgotten. He was 41 years old, worth $3.2 billion. And according to the medical report trembling in his left hand, he had maybe 3 months to live. The brain tumor was inoperable, aggressive, already pressing against tissue that controlled memory, speech, and eventually breathing. But it wasn't the diagnosis that made his hands shake. It was the second letter, the one from his father. Chike, if you're reading this, I'm already gone. And if the doctors are right, you don't have much time either. Our family has a genetic condition. I hid it from you because I was a coward. But you need to know the truth. I died alone, wealthy and empty. I don't want that for you, so I've made arrangements. You have 72 hours from the moment you receive this letter to prove you found what money can't buy: genuine love. Not infatuation. Not gratitude. Not transaction. If you succeed, everything I built stays yours. If you fail, every asset, every account, every property will be liquidated and donated to strangers. The executor of my will has strict instructions. No lawyers can override this. You cannot buy your way out. You must earn it. Find love, my son. Real love. Before it's too late. Your father who learned too late. 72 hours to find love or lose billions. Sounds impossible, right? If you haven't subscribed to Wealthra Stories, hit the subscribe button now, because what happens next will make you question everything you thought you knew about love. Can a man who's never been vulnerable suddenly become real? Keep watching. Chike read it 3 times. Then he called his lawyer. This is insane. There's no legal precedent. It's ironclad, the lawyer interrupted. His name was Femi and he'd worked for the family for 20 years. Your father spent 2 years structuring this. International trustees. Offshore protocols. If you don't meet the condition in 72 hours, you lose everything. Everything. The houses, the businesses, the offshore accounts, the art collection, the jets, everything. Chike looked around his penthouse. 12,000 square feet of Italian marble and German engineering, empty except for him. How do I prove it? He asked quietly. The letter says you'll know, and so will the executor. Who's the executor? Your father never told me. The instructions say they'll reveal themselves when the time comes. Chike ended the call. He walked to the floor-to-ceiling window and stared at Lagos. Somewhere down there, in the chaos of 15 million people, he was supposed to find something he'd never believed in. Love. Real love. In 72 hours. He laughed. It sounded hollow. The clock started at 9:17 a.m. By 11 a.m., Chike had compiled a list. Women he'd dated. Women who'd expressed interest. Women his mother had tried to set him up with before she died. He scrolled through contacts, Instagram profiles, society pages. Every face looked the same. Beautiful, polished, strategic. His assistant, Maykem, stood in the doorway holding a tablet. Sir, you have the board meeting at 2. The merger documents need your signature by. Cancel everything, Chike said. And Kem blinked. Everything? For the next 3 days. Cancel it all. Sir, the Singapore deal alone is worth. I don't care. Kem had worked for Chike for 6 years. She'd never heard him say those words. Is everything okay? She asked carefully. Chike looked at her. Kem was 32. Efficient, loyal, pretty in a quiet way. He'd never thought about her as anything other than an employee. Do you believe in love? He asked. Kem's expression didn't change. Is this a philosophical question or a personal one? Personal. She was silent for a moment. I think love is what's left when attraction fades and convenience ends. It's what makes you stay when leaving would be easier. Have you ever felt it? Once. And what happened? He chose his career over me. Moved to London. Married someone whose father could advance his law practice. Chike nodded slowly. I'm sorry. Don't be. I learned what I was worth to him. Better to know. She turned to leave, then paused. Sir, why are you asking? Because I have 72 hours to find it or lose everything. Nkem looked at him for a long moment. Then I suggest you stop looking where you've always looked. By evening, Chike had tried. He'd called 3 women from his list. The conversations followed the same pattern. Excitement when they heard his voice. Immediate availability. Carefully curated interest in dinner, travel, whatever he suggested. He ended each call feeling more hollow than before. They wanted him, or they wanted what he represented. But none of them loved him. How could they? They barely knew him. At 8 p.m., he left the penthouse. His driver asked where to go. Just drive, Chike said. They drove through Victoria Island, through Ikoyi, past the gated estates and golf courses and private beaches. Everything looked sterile, constructed, designed to keep the world out. Sir, where should I? Stop here. They were somewhere in Yaba. The streets were crowded, loud, alive. Hawkers sold roasted plantain and suya. Generators hummed. Music poured from beer parlors. Chike stepped out of the car. His driver looked alarmed. Sir, it's not safe. Wait here. Chike walked into the chaos. People stared at his clothes-custom suit, Italian shoes. A few recognized him. Most didn't care. He didn't know what he was looking for. Just something real. He walked for 20 minutes before he smelled it. Flowers. Not the imported roses his staff bought for the penthouse. Something different. Heavier, sweet and earthy at the same time. He followed the scent down a narrow street, past a mechanic shop and a woman frying akara. At the end of the street was a small flower shop. No sign. Just buckets of flowers arranged on wooden tables. And behind the table, arranging stems with careful hands, was a woman. She was young, maybe late 20s. She wore a simple Ankara dress, her hair wrapped in a scarf. Her hands moved over the flowers with absolute certainty, trimming, sorting, bundling. Chike watched her for a moment before he realized. She was blind. Her eyes were open but unfocused. She touched each flower, identified it by texture and scent, arranged it without hesitation. Are you going to stand there all night? Or are you going to buy something? She asked without looking up. What? A blind woman just saw through a billionaire in 30 seconds. If that gave you chills, subscribe now because their next conversation will reveal a truth most people spend their whole lives running from. Will he have the courage to face it? Chike startled. How did you? You've been standing there for 3 minutes. You smell expensive. Cologne that costs more than my rent. And you're breathing like someone who's nervous. Chike stepped closer. I didn't mean to stare. Everyone stares. I'm used to it. She held up a bundle of white lilies. These are fresh. 50 naira. That's too cheap. It's what they cost. They're worth more. She smiled slightly. Worth is complicated. To you, maybe they're worth 500 naira. To the woman who'll buy them tomorrow to put on her mother's grave, they're worth exactly what she can afford. I charge what people can pay. Chike pulled out his wallet. I'll take them. And whatever else you recommend. I don't recommend. I ask what you need, and I tell you what fits. What if I don't know what I need? She tilted her head. Then you're in the wrong shop. I sell flowers, not therapy. Despite himself, Chike smiled. What's your name? Juliet. I'm Chike. I know. He blinked. You know? You're Chike, a billionaire. You own half of Lagos. Your voice has been on the news enough times. She wrapped the lilies in old newspaper. Why are you here? I was driving. I smelled flowers. And you stopped? Billionaires don't stop in Yaba to buy flowers from blind women. Maybe I'm not like other billionaires. Juliet laughed. It was genuine, unguarded. Everyone says that. Usually right before they prove they're exactly like everyone else. Chike took the flowers. Their fingers brushed. Hers were calloused, strong. How much? He asked. 50 naira. I already told you. He placed 1,000 naira note on the table. Juliet's hand found it. She held it up. I don't have change for this. Keep it. I don't take charity. It's not charity. It's payment for making me smile. I didn't do anything. Exactly. You didn't perform, you didn't adjust. You just were. He paused. That's rare. Juliet was quiet for a moment. Then she folded the note and tucked it into her pocket. Thank you. Can I come back tomorrow? It's a free country, but I close at 9. I'll be here before 9. Chike walked back to his car. His driver stared at the flowers. Sir, are those drive? As they pulled away, Chike looked back. Juliet was already working again, her hands moving through stems and petals like a dancer who'd memorized every step. For the first time in years, he felt something other than emptiness. The next morning, Chike woke to his phone ringing. Femi, his lawyer, you have 54 hours left. I know. Have you made progress? Chike thought of Juliet, her hands, her laugh, the way she'd refused his pity. Maybe isn't enough. The executor is watching. They'll know if you're pretending. How? I don't know. Your father designed this test to be impossible to fake. Whatever you do, it has to be real. Chike ended the call. He spent the morning trying to work, failed, spent the afternoon in meetings he didn't hear. By 7 p.m., he was back in Yaba. Juliet was closing up, stacking empty buckets, sweeping petals from the ground. You came back, she said without turning around. I said I would. People say a lot of things. Chike watched her work. Do you need help? Do you know how to stack buckets? I can learn. She handed him 3 buckets. Stack them there. Don't drop them. He stacked them carefully. She listened to the sound, nodded approval. You're better at taking orders than I expected, she said. I'm better at a lot of things than people expect. Like what? Listening. Juliet laughed. Billionaires don't listen. They wait for other people to stop talking. You don't know me. I know your type. I've met enough rich men who think flowers are currency. They buy expensive bouquets for women they don't love and expect it to mean something. I'm not buying flowers for anyone but myself. Why? Because they remind me there's still beauty I haven't purchased. Juliet stopped sweeping. That's either very honest or very calculated. It's honest. She studied him or seemed to, despite her blindness. You're lonely. She knew without being told. How? Subscribe and turn on notifications because the answer she's about to give will change how you see every relationship in your life. Some people see what others hide. Are you ready to know what she sees in him? It wasn't a question. Chike didn't answer. It's in your voice. Juliet continued. The way you pause before you speak. Like you're translating thoughts into words people expect. You've been alone so long you've forgotten how to just talk. And you've been blind so long you've learned to see better than most people. I wasn't always blind. Chike waited. I lost my sight when I was 16. Infection. Bad medicine. No money for proper treatment. She shrugged. It happens. I'm sorry. Don't be. I see more now than I did before. How? Because I can't rely on appearances. I have to listen to what people don't say. Feel what they hide. She turned toward him. Like you. You're dying. Chike's breath stopped. How did you? Your breathing changes when you think about time. Like you're counting it. And you came back tonight even though you don't need flowers. People who aren't running out of time don't do that. Chike sat down on an overturned crate. I have a brain tumor. 3 months. Maybe less. I'm sorry. Now who's apologizing? Juliet smiled sadly. Death isn't something to apologize for. It just is. They sat in silence. Then Chike said, I have 72 hours to find love or lose everything I own. Juliet tilted her head. That's the strangest thing I've heard all week. It's true. My father's will, his final test. And you came here? To a flower shop in Yaba. I came here because you're the first person in years who's talked to me like I'm human instead of useful. Juliet was quiet for a long time. Then she said, love isn't something you find in 72 hours. It's something you build. Over years. Through trust and failure and forgiveness. Your father's test is impossible. I know. So what will you do? Fail, probably. But I'd rather fail honestly than succeed by faking it. Juliet stood. Come back tomorrow. Same time. I'll have something for you. What? You'll see. She smiled at her own joke. Chike left feeling lighter than he had in years. The third day began with rain. Heavy, relentless, the kind that turned Lego streets into rivers. Chike's driver couldn't get through to Yaba. Flooding, traffic, chaos. Chike walked. 6 kilometers in Italian leather shoes that disintegrated in the mud. His suit was ruined. His phone died. He didn't care. By the time he reached Juliet's shop, he was soaked, exhausted, and laughing. She was waiting under the tin roof, listening to the rain. You're insane, she said when she heard him approach. Probably. You walked? You told me to come back. In stand other in Tanger. I didn't think you'd actually. She stopped. Come inside. You'll catch pneumonia. There was a small room behind the shop. Bare concrete walls, a gas stove, a sleeping mat. Juliet handed him a towel. It's not much, she said. It's enough. She made tea on the stove. They sat on the floor, listening to the rain hammer the roof. Why did you really come back? Juliet asked. Because in 72 hours, everything I've built will be gone. And I realized I don't care about the money. I care about what I never had. Which is someone who stays when there's nothing to gain. Juliet was quiet. Then she said, I'm staying. You don't know me. I know enough. I know you walked 6 kilometers in the rain. I know you didn't send your driver with money and a message. I know you're sitting on my floor in ruined shoes, drinking cheap tea, and you haven't complained once. That's not love. That's just decency. Maybe love starts with decency, with showing up, with staying. Chike looked at her. I don't have time to build what you're talking about. Then don't build it. Just be honest. Right now. In this moment. About what? About what you want. Chike set down his tea. I want to matter to someone. Not because of what I own. Not because of what I can provide. Just because I exist. Juliet reached out. Her hand found his face. She traced his jaw, his cheekbones, his forehead. Reading him. You matter, she said. You don't know me well enough to say that. I know you better than you think. I know you're afraid. I know you've built walls so high you forgot what it's like to let someone in. I know you're dying and you're trying to find something real before you go. Tears slid down Chike's face. He didn't wipe them away. Juliet's hand found the tears. She traced them gently. I can't give you 72 hours of love, she said, but I can give you 72 hours of truth. No performance, no transaction, just 2 people, honest. Why would you do that? Because you walked through the rain. Because you didn't lie. Because I've been alone too and I know what it costs. Chike took her hand. What if I don't deserve it? No one deserves love. They just receive it. Or they don't. The rain slowed. Juliet stood. I have something to show you. She led him outside, behind the shop, to a small garden. Tiny, crowded, bursting with flowers he'd never seen before. I grow these myself, she said. People think blind people can't garden. But I know every plant by touch, by smell, by the way the soil feels around the roots. She knelt, pulled a small flower from the ground, and handed it to Chike. It was fragile, white petals, almost translucent. Night jasmine, she said. It only blooms in darkness. Most people never see it because they're not looking at the right time. Chike held it carefully. You remind me of this flower, Juliet said. You only show your real self when no one's watching, when there's no audience, no expectation. How do you know? Because you're showing it now. Chike knelt beside her. I don't want to lose this. You won't. Even if you lose everything else, you'll remember this. That's what love is. It's not about possession. It's about witness. Being seen, being known. A car pulled up at the end of the street. Femi stepped out, holding an umbrella. Chike, he called. We need to talk. Juliet tensed. Who's that? My lawyer. He's here about the will. Your time is up? Almost. Femi approached. His eyes took in the mud, the ruined suit, the tiny flower in Chike's hand. The executor wants to meet you, Femi said. Now, who are they? You'll see. Chike looked at Juliet. Come with me. Why? Because I don't want to face this alone. She hesitated, then nodded. They drove in silence to a building Chike didn't recognize. Old colonial architecture. Quiet street. No signs. Inside, a single office. Behind the desk sat a woman Chike had never met. She was elderly, elegant, her eyes sharp. Chike, she said. Sit. He sat. Juliet stood beside him. I am the executor of your father's will, the woman said. My name is irrelevant. What matters is the test. I failed, Chike said quietly. I know I failed. Did you? I didn't find love in 72 hours. That's impossible. Your father didn't ask you to find love. He asked you to prove you understand what it is. Chike frowned. I don't understand. The woman leaned forward. Your father spent his life accumulating wealth because he thought it would fill the emptiness inside him. It didn't. By the time he realized, it was too late. He died alone. Wealthy, hollow. She paused. He didn't want that for you. So he designed a test. Not to see if you could find a wife in 3 days, but to see if you could recognize love when you encountered it. She looked at Juliet. This woman, who is she to you? A stranger, Chike said. Someone I met 2 days ago. Do you love her? Chike looked at Juliet. Her face was calm, waiting. I don't know, he said honestly. I care about her. I respect her. I want to know her. But love? Real love? That takes time. And if you had time, I'd spend it with her. Learning, listening, being honest. The executor nodded slowly. Your father's will specified one condition, that you demonstrate understanding of genuine love, not possession, not performance, understanding. She opened a folder. Over the past 72 hours, you've been observed. Every interaction, every choice, the women you called and dismissed, the money you tried to use. And finally, she looked at Juliet, the woman you walked 6 kilometers in the rain to see, not because she could give you anything, but because she saw you. Chika's heart pounded. You walked away from wealth, the executor continued. You sat on a concrete floor drinking cheap tea. You held a flower like it was priceless. You admitted you don't have all the answers. That's what your father wanted to see. Not certainty, but humility. Not possession, but witness. She closed the folder. You pass. He passed. But the real test is just beginning. Tap that subscribe button right now because what comes next will prove whether transformation is real or just performance. Can he sustain it? Chike exhaled. The estate remains yours. But there's one more condition. What? You must use a portion of it, no less than 20%, to fund a foundation supporting those society overlooks. The blind, the poor, the invisible. You will oversee it personally. Not through intermediaries. Personally. Chike looked at Juliet. She was smiling. I accept, he said. The executor stood. Your father wanted you to learn one thing. That wealth is a tool, not a trophy. Use it well. She left. Chike and Juliet sat in silence. Finally, Juliet said, You don't have to see me again. You have your answer. You can go back to your life. What if I don't want to? You're dying, Chike. You have 3 months. Maybe less. Why spend them with someone you barely know? Because you're the only person who's made me feel alive. Juliet's hands trembled. I can't fix you. I can't save you. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to let me be honest. For however long I have. No walls. No performance. Just real. Juliet was quiet for a long time. Then she said, okay. 2 months later, Chike sat in the hospital waiting room, Juliet beside him. His hands were shaking. Whatever they say, we'll handle it, Juliet said quietly. Dr. Emeka called him in. The scan images were already on the screen. The doctor's face was confused. Not happy confused. Mr. Chike, I've run the scan 3 times. There must be some error. Chike's chest tightened. What kind of error? The tumor. It's smaller. Significantly smaller. That doesn't happen with this type of growth. The room tilted. What does that mean? Chike whispered. I don't know yet. It could be spontaneous regression, extremely rare but documented. Your cortisol levels have dropped dramatically. Your inflammatory markers are the lowest I've seen in a patient with your condition. The doctor paused. Sometimes extreme stress reduction changes tumor behavior. You might have more time than we thought. The tumor is shrinking. But is that good news or the hardest challenge yet? Subscribe if you want to see whether a man can stay changed when he's no longer afraid of dying. The next 2 years will answer the question, was his love real or just fear dressed up as redemption? Chike walked out in a daze. Juliet was waiting. She stood when she heard his footsteps. What did he say? I might live. She was silent for a long moment. Are you disappointed? Chike sat heavily. I don't know. The last 2 months, I've been free. Because I thought I was dying. I didn't have to plan or perform. I just was. And now I have to figure out how to stay this person when I'm not dying. Juliet's hand found his face. The fear didn't change you. The choice did. You chose honesty. You chose to show up. Death was just the deadline. The choice was always yours. 3 months later, they launched the foundation together. The foundation for the overlooked. Chike handled logistics and funding. Juliet handled vision and heart. But his old world pulled at him. Board meetings, deals, important obligations. One evening, Juliet confronted him in the office. You've missed 4 site visits this month, she said calmly. I had the Singapore deal. It's worth 40 million. And we allocated 2 million for the school for blind children in Kano. You're trading 20 families' site restoration for more wealth you don't need. You're becoming your father again. The words hit like a punch. That's not fair. Isn't it? You told me you wanted to matter. Not because of money. Because of what you do with it. So do it. Or admit you only changed because you were afraid. Chike stared at her. Then he picked up his phone and canceled the Singapore trip. You're right, he said quietly. I'm sorry. Don't apologize to me. Apologize to yourself. You're the one you're betraying. 2 years later, the foundation had restored site to 487 people, built 9 schools, funded housing for 150 families. Chike's tumor remained stable, small, monitored, not growing. He still had wealth, but he wasn't defined by it. One evening in Juliet's garden, surrounded by night jasmine, she asked, Do you miss your old life? Sometimes. The simplicity of it, everything measured in numbers. And now, everything's measured in whether it matters. It's harder, but it's real. Juliet smiled. Good. Chike knelt in the dirt beside her. I want to ask you something. If this is a proposal, the answer is no. He blinked. What? I won't marry someone who needs me to validate his transformation. I'll marry a partner. That's different. Then what do I need to do? Keep choosing. Every day. For the rest of your life. Prove this isn't about me saving you. It's about us building something together. Chike nodded slowly. Okay. Ask me again in a year. A year later, in the same garden, Chike knelt again. Juliet, will you marry a man who's still learning, who makes mistakes, who's not perfect but is trying? She laughed. That's the worst proposal I've ever heard. It's honest. Then yes. They married quietly. No society wedding, just family, foundation staff, and the people whose lives they changed. At the reception, Femi approached Chike. Your father would be proud, the lawyer said. Chike looked at Juliet across the room, laughing with a group of women from the Kano school. I think he'd be relieved, Chike said. He gave me a deadline to find love. But what I found was better. I found purpose. And the woman who wouldn't let me fake it. Femi smiled. That's the same thing. 5 years after the diagnosis, Chike's scans remained stable. The foundation had impacted over 2,000 lives. He and Juliet worked side by side, building, arguing, laughing, struggling, succeeding. One night, as they lay in bed, Juliet said, I'm proud of you. For what? For staying. For not going back to who you were when the fear faded. Chike pulled her closer. You didn't let me. Every time I slipped, you called me out. That's what love is, not letting each other hide. Chike thought about his father's letter, the impossible test, the 72 hours that changed everything. He'd thought he was looking for love. But what he'd found was truth. And the woman who taught him that the two were the same. In the garden outside, night jasmine bloomed in the darkness. Beautiful because no one was watching. Real, because it didn't have to perform. Just like the life they'd built together. Chike learned what his father died trying to teach him, that love isn't found in desperate searches or fairy tale moments. It's built in the quiet choices, the walking through rain, the sitting on concrete floors, the showing up when it's inconvenient. Real love doesn't complete you. It challenges you. It refuses to let you hide behind wealth or fear or performance. And perhaps the most important lesson, love isn't about finding someone when you're dying. It's about learning to live honestly, so that when love arrives, you're finally awake enough to recognize it. Now, ask yourself this. If you had 72 hours to prove what truly matters to you not with words, but with choices, what would your life reveal? Would the people you claim to love see evidence of it? Or would they see the same distractions, the same excuses, the same version of you that's too busy to show up? Because time doesn't wait for perfect moments. It only counts what you actually do. If this story moved you, don't let it end here. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss stories that challenge how you see love, wealth, and what it means to truly matter. Hit the notification bell. These aren't just stories, they're mirrors. And drop a comment below. What would you do differently if you knew you only had 72 hours? Be honest, because your answer reveals more than you think. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's been hiding. Someone who's been too afraid to show up honestly. Thank you for staying until the end. That choice alone says something about you. Now go prove it in your real life. See you on the next one.